Well, this is 88.5 WMNF in Tampa. My name is Randy Wind, and I'm here today to host the Live Music Showcase. I'm really excited. Today on our show, we've got musicians who come from Montreal and Kentucky, and their music is a tapestry of folk and world music involving spirituality, love, and politics. And they're old friends of WMNF. We're excited to have on the Live Music Showcase today, HuDost.
Thank you.
Hello, brother, it's good to see you again. I've been a little scared to talk, but I think it's time the silence ends. My brother, I know you always want to be the last to throw the stone, and I'm the first to tell the story. And I envy the one who loves and asks for no return. But I'm asking for your asking, 'cause the world has much to learn. And rise to the burning church of the sacred life. I'm gonna rise to the burning church of the sacred life. I'm sorry, but we're not better for your word. The emperor wears new clothes, and we are still not heard. My brother, when you wrote the book of Acts, did you think about the daughters and the questions they would ask? And I envy the one who loves and asks for no return. But I'm asking for your asking, 'cause the world has much to learn. And rise to the burning church of the sacred life. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna rise to the burning church of the sacred life. Love, my brother. I'd love to sit and talk, but I'm seeking good clean water to clear away the shark. Rise to the burning church of the sacred love. I'm gonna rise to the burning church of the sacred love. Oh, won't you rise to the burning church of the sacred love? Come on and rise to the burning church of the sacred love. Oh, won't you rise to the burning church of the sacred love?
All right. Well, that is HuDost. And before we talk a little more, let's talk about that song. I played that yesterday on the Thursday morning show.
Awesome.
Cool song. Tell us what Burning Churches, what's that about? Tell us the story.
Well,
First song on the new album, right?
it is
Yes.
actually.
Second time we ever played it.
Yeah, right here
Still
in
figuring
the
out
studio.
how to play it.
I think it could be misinterpreted. We're not talking about burning down churches, but in this song, I think I and many other women have struggled in terms of being in a very patriarchal religious system in terms of what we experience, especially in the West, but this happens in other parts of the world too, where our own searching and reclaiming is often shunned. And even in religious contexts where women are very welcomed, it's still often very patriarchal just in terms of who the leaders are allowed to be, in terms of whose voices are heard, in terms of even, the names given to the divine. And I think this is not about shunning those systems, but it's about saying, let's come back to the core teachings of these religions, the people who actually brought these religions forward. I mean, Christ is a great example. He was an awesome dude who had women very much a part of what he was doing, and it was through the years that changed in terms of after he was gone. And so this is the thing of going, let's revise, let's come back to what we can all share. So it's not like I hate my brother. It's hey, dude, let's talk about this.
Thank you very much. That's Moksha talking, and she's here with Jamal, and they are HuDost today. Just two folks, but sometimes it's a big band. I've seen how many? 8, 10?
Probably.
Yeah.
But a big sound. So we'll talk all about that and the spirituality that runs through HuDost, and pretty exciting. Now, just before we proceed, let's figure out where you guys are playing in the area in case people are excited about the sound and want to see HuDost. Tonight, you're going to be in St. Pete.
We are, yeah.
Tell us about the show tonight.
At Hip Expressions Dance Studio.
And that's kind of in North St. Pete, 54th Avenue, as I see it, 2033 54th Avenue North. And so what's going to be going on there?
Well, there's going to be a lot of belly dancers with us. And we're also going to be joined by Kat and Susie from the Sarasota band Divine AF. Not sure if you guys have heard of them yet, but you should, because they're near and they're great. And Christy Lene is going to join us as a special guest for a few songs. And
I know Christy's been on here many times, right?
Right, and was she actually sort of a member of HuDost for a while, or she toured with you guys?
yeah, she does bigger festivals and stuff. We've done, yeah.
We'll be doing
We play
more
with
with
each
her
other a
this
lot.
summer, too. She's awesome. She is an incredible solo artist, and we just kind of collaborate when we can collaborate with her.
Right. Now she's got her solo career totally going.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when she plays with us, we, at least with the full band, I force her to play with fuzz pedals and electric guitars so she can shred, not just all the acoustic.
And so you're in St. Pete tonight, and then tomorrow you're up at Sertoma Youth Ranch.
We'll be doing the String Break Music Festival tomorrow, which will be super fun. We've done that a couple times before, and we'll have a couple sets tomorrow. And we'll be doing it as duo with a couple special guests. We will be coming back and doing Riverhawk in the fall with the full band, too. So we'll be hanging out at that farm
the
a
full
bunch.
onslaught in the fall, but
Yeah, I've seen you guys up there, and it's always a treat because you guys have quite a different sound than a lot of the bands up there. Kind of a lot of bluegrass and rootsy bands, and then you guys are doing sort of that. You have a postmodern approach, I would say. Would you agree with that?
We have just a confused approach, I think is what it is.
Now,
we stick out everywhere.
Now, if you want to see the band, and you probably should, because it's what you're getting on the radio is cool. But if you see what's going on, Moksha's here playing she's got some keyboards. Looks like an interesting thing over there that we're going to get to later. And Jamal is the king of all the pedals and electronics, and it's a wild thing that's going on here with these guys. So we are on Facebook Live. Go to the Live Music Showcase Facebook page, and you can check us out, and be sure to share that page to all your friends so that more and more people can experience this and experience WMNF. and the cool stuff that we have. Every Friday we have the live music showcase. HuDost today.
Yay, WMNF.
Let's
I like the 2 o'clock version better than the showing up at 8 a.m. version.
Yeah, a lot better. Let's do another song.
Awesome.
We'll talk about this song afterwards.
I had a dream. I shed the last tear in the world. Everyone was looking at me. I had the thought, everybody moves to the same light, and we will find our way. No, nothing's meaningless. The dream is my own evenness, and every step will push us to the place. Set foot in the river, float out to the ocean, fall down to the bottom, and we will all rise. Step off of the mountain, fall down to the valley, bury your body, all rise together. How could we know our hands would become weapons of war? And what about peace? I saw the rain and the colors that bled from the clouds and the sun in the daylight. Nothing was left out and no one was feeling alone. We found a recklessness, the dream is our own evidence, and every step will push us to the place. Set foot in the river, float out to the ocean, fall down to the bottom, and we will all rise. Step off on the mountain, fall down to the valley, bury your body, all rise together. We'll all rise together. We'll all rise up again, rise up again. Oh, won't you rise up again, rise up again. Set foot in the river, float out to the ocean, fall down to the bottom, and we will all rise. Step off of the mountain, fall down to the valley, bury your body, all rise together. We'll all rise together. We'll all rise together. And we will all rise together. We'll all rise together. We'll all rise together. And we will all rise together. We'll all rise together. We'll all. I had a dream.
Now that's the lead single from the album, right? Rise
is.
Together.
Yeah, it is.
Is that a political message or a spiritual message or both?
So it is definitely both to some extent. We actually, sorry about that. We actually met Dan Hasseltine, who's the lead singer of Jars of Clay. He's an incredible musician, and we connected deeply through music, but our first meeting of him was in D.C. at a One Summit, which is the nonprofit organization that we work for, that the aim is to end extreme poverty. And we met him lobbying on Capitol Hill, so we were all going and meeting with different congressmen and senators. And
Moksha and I are the Kentucky congressional reps
yes.
for one, which means we go meet with Mitch McConnell, Rand Paul, and our congressmen and things of that sort.
Now, okay, somebody's looking for this the One campaign. What's the website?
So the website is just one.org, one.org. And the thing that we do, especially with One, is that we never ask for money. The whole way that it functions is basically using the voices that we have as people who are heard by our representatives, in order to voice on behalf of those whose voices are not heard, people living in extreme poverty. And we've been able to amazingly pass several bills, that aid that in different ways. We've had a large focus, especially on how girls and young women are affected by poverty differently than young boys and men, and making sure that girls and young women have equal access to education as boys and young men. And this is in places where, again, this is extreme poverty. So this is, they recently changed the mark-off, but it's below $2 a day in terms of the money that you have to survive on. And, right now, if you want to, here in Florida, too, you can be involved and you can reach out and find out how you can write letters and make phone calls as well. Amazingly, Florida has been super helpful in terms of stopping Trump from some of the major federal foreign aid cuts to global spending in terms of being able to help in terms of global aid.
The cuts that he has proposed the last 3 years of foreign aid would, amongst many things, end HIV medication for over 18 million people, throw off that medication for a week. The virus mutates, and you know what happens then. So, that's been kind of our main thing, is don't cut the foreign aid budget anymore. It's less than 1%.
We're talking to and listening to the music of HuDost and getting some of their thoughts about the world. Now, it seems like you guys have you sort of meld politics and spirituality. Is that accurate?
I think meld is a nice word for it. I think they just sometimes bump elbows and sometimes they meld. It's like a marriage, right? But yes, yeah. I mean, we have been driven with both for a long time, and just found, especially as musicians, we're in a rare position where we can almost be like the voice for both of those things, give people access to music that is a non-denominational, almost spiritual experience, and also be activists by aiding other people to be able to have their voices heard. So.
Well, we're so thrilled to have you here today because, WMNF is rare because we are a radio station with values. And sometimes it's hard to find musicians who actually are open about their values, but HuDost definitely is.
Yes, we are. Thank you. And just for the record,
Sometimes more outspoken than...
Yeah, sometimes too outspoken. And just for the
Chester
record,
reel me in
One
online
is
sometimes.
a bipartisan. It's open to anyone, and it's not trying to advocate on behalf of one political group, but the work that we do is very humanitarian driven. So,
well, we have to hear about the new album, but let's hear a song first.
Awesome.
Yes, we're going to play not a song from the new record.
Well, I hope a lot of people are watching on Facebook Live because it's a lot to see here. Uh, Tell us about that instrument that you're playing, Moksha. What is that called anyway? I've never seen that before.
It's called a harmonium, and it's a pretty cool instrument. I mean, it's definitely the perfect instrument for me because it originally came from Europe. It was brought over to India in terms of like as a missionary hymnal tool, and was then completely sucked into Indian classical music culture and not just classical music, but just sort of Indian music culture. And so it's kind of an awesome hybrid instrument because you get them in India at this point. So it's the East meets West.
It's very interesting. Describe it for somebody who's not watching it on Facebook Live.
How many words do I have? Do I have like 2 words or less to describe it? It's basically a pump organ. It works the same way as an accordion in that it's pumping air through, and then of course I play keys to determine what's being played on it.
So that kind of creates that droney sound, right?
It does, yeah. But it's it has a full keyboard on it, and that's what I'm playing. And it's more like a bass accordion because it has so much more space in the body for the air to be, so you can get really deep resonance with it.
And what language were you singing in?
So that was actually our. Am I allowed to use a swear word on the air? Is that
Probably not.
okay? How do I say this in the correct way? Then this is our. You just said it anyway.
Oh, you can say that's
Oh,
not.
okay.
That's okay
This
to
is
say.
our bastardization of a traditional qawwali piece that is basically the lineage of a Sufi family. So, but it's basically like singing almost like of the history of that. But it's traditionally a qawwali song, and that's our complete rendition of it, including electric guitars and everything. So.
But do you speak that, or can you just appropriate the sounds without knowing what they're saying?
So I was.
And how many languages do you speak?
So I speak a few languages, but we've also had the privilege to go and study music in a few different places. And so I worked for several years with an Indian classical voice teacher. That piece was actually given to me by the head of a particular Sufi lineage and asked if we would do it. So
He didn't know we were going to do it like that, though.
no, he did not. So he basically taught me, what the basic form was and, the translation of it and that type of thing. So
Now, we're talking to Moksha Sommer, who was from Montreal. And
Montréal, monsieur.
so is French your first language?
I grew up pretty much bilingual. I mean, English is my first language because my dang dad was an American. But yeah, no, you grow up in Quebec speaking both languages because French is the main language. So, yeah.
Well, we're listening to HuDost, and again, I recommend checking out this band on Facebook Live, WMNF's Facebook live music showcase page on Facebook Live.
It's happening right now.
Happening right now, and then what happens is Richard Stone takes the video and turns it into a YouTube production sometime later in the day, probably early evening is usually when it goes up on YouTube.
Cool.
With some production elements added. But Facebook Live is happening right now as we speak. I want to thank our crew today. Bill Dudley and Nick Sarasi are on working the audio today. Richard Stone is going to be handling the YouTube component as we develop it. Bob Hoke is our video director, and Tom and Marcy Connors are the crew today, and Townsend is the chief of security. My name is Randy Wind, and I'm happy to be hosting today with these wonderful musicians, Jamal and Moksha. They are HuDost here in our studio for probably been here, 4 or 5 times?
Gosh, I've lost count. This is like, this is in our top favorite radio stations. It's so awesome what you have here and what you host and what you do.
I've been listening since I grew up in Gainesville. I always had to do my real record shopping in Tampa when I was a teenager and real shows. So I always listened to this as soon as I came into Tampa.
And so HuDost started, about 2006?
That's when we
2005
started
was
touring
our
full
first
time. Was 2006. Yeah.
Okay, now I saw you guys for the first time at some Folk Alliance thing. Was that in Montreal?
That probably was in
Memphis.
Memphis.
Memphis?
Yeah.
And what year was that? Do you remember?
I don't know, 2007-ish
Over
maybe? It was
2007.
pretty
Yeah.
early.
So I saw
yeah.
you pretty early in the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, you guys were wild at that. It was a big crowd because you guys were so different from the normal guy with a guitar.
Yeah, and somehow still we play a lot of like folk festivals and stuff like that, and I'm just grateful that those crowds are like, cool, bring in the weirdos, and we're welcomed there. So
We can get folky too, so.
it's true.
Well, we're listening to HuDost right here on WMNF's Live Music Showcase. WMNF is at 88.5. We're also WMNF.org if you would like to check us out right there. And we have an app where you can stream shows as they're happening or in the archives. So we're listening to HuDost today on the Live Music Showcase.
Share your love in the river lost. Share your love in the river lost. Oh, come to me. Come to me. Oh, dark water, won't you comfort me? 'Cause when my pain's too big, you are my medicine. Tears are gone and breath is all I've got. You are the peace I seek when I'm ready to drown in the water. Here we are in the river lost. Here we are in the river lost. Oh, come to me. Come to me. When the sting clears after weeping rain, the sun comes out again like shiny cellophane. All I know is that you change my view and do it over and over so I can root by your water. Here we are in the river lost. Here we are in the river lost. Oh, come to me. Come to me. Share your love.
Wow, that song is gorgeous. It's a beauty. Well, tell us about it.
I mean, I wrote it from that place of that. How do I say the place of vulnerability where one is willing to surrender. You know, that's what that was about in terms of surrendering, and whether that is interpreted in terms of in a relationship or in a greater way. I leave that open to the listener. We actually did a full video for that in Florida at the springs, which it's some of the most beautiful water anywhere in terms of the Florida springs. And if you want to check out, you know, like on our Facebook or on YouTube, there's a video, and in it I have this like huge
And what's the name of the song?
piece of flowing fabric on me. It's called "The River Lost," and of course we're HuDost, HuDost. And it looks all like beautiful and very graceful in the video. And by the end of the day, I was so exhausted. It's so intense to swim underwater with huge chunks of fabric attached to your body. So I don't recommend it to small children or people who have not good swimming skills.
Well, it's a tremendously beautiful song. Jamal, can you talk a little bit about all the stuff you've got going on over there? You've got like so much equipment. Were you an equipment freak when you were growing up, and you just started collecting things, and now it's all you carry it around with you wherever you go?
It keeps expanding. I keep trying to figure out how to make it more compact and expand at the same time.
Well,
but that's kind
I
of
know
the story.
some people who are watching on Facebook Live can see all the stuff that Jamal has, but tell the radio listeners a little bit about what you're playing with here.
Well, I've got a lot of, pedal boards and lots of delays, and there's, kick drum samplers. There's a 5-track.
How do you keep it all straight when you're doing it?
Well, it's sometimes it's a lot of work, but yeah, I mean, but I have to sync the BPMs of the delays with the loops, and then we, Moksha on this next song, will run over and do some looping as well. So
I'll run over with these headphones on and hopefully not trip on any chords.
there's a lot of pre-production, and then like once it's going, sometimes it can fall apart. But it's all about making the falling apart interesting too. So that's a good thing, because I grew up listening, playing in the Gainesville music punk rock scene, and listening to Sonic Youth and stuff like that. So
And then
I can always lean on feedback and noise whenever stuff starts falling
How did you
apart.
get from punk rock to the more spiritual sound, world music sound of HuDost?
There's a band called the Grateful Dead
Grateful
that
Dead.
messed him up.
And Grateful Dead and all that goes along with it. I got turned on, man. But Sonic Youth kind of turned me on early, though. I was kind of like, they're pretty psychedelic, psychedelic punk. So it was punk rock at a high school, and then it turned to acid drenched punk, and then I got turned on to the Dead.
And apparently acid always leads to God. That's off the record. Oh, sorry, we're on the air. Never mind.
It does sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. You got to accept all of it. But yeah, and I started playing in a world music ensemble in the early 90s and learning all these polyrhythms and playing with drums for belly dance troops and learning Egyptian rhythms and stuff like that. So, but, Queen and Prince are like my favorite.
How did you guys meet up?
That's a great question, actually, because I came from a completely classical and world music background in terms of my training. So the whole concept of falling apart live at first was very frightening to me, because that's completely opposite to what I had learned.
Ask how we
So
meet
we actually met at a festival in North Carolina.
A Sufi festival.
It was a Sufi festival. It was run by a whole huge crew of Turkish Sufis, and that's where we met. And we met, of course, it was music that first brought us together. So, and then it went a little deeper. I mean, we do have a child together after all. So.
How is the little boy?
He's amazing.
Is he with you?
He's with his uncle for these couple days just so he could stay in his normal
In
school
Kentucky.
rhythm. Yeah. So he was with us for the first part of the tour, and he's really cool with touring. He actually really likes it. We've kind of connected with other bands and stuff that also have kids. It's kind of interesting. I'm sure you've probably had Him for Her on here before.
They're playing at
and-
Spring Break this weekend.
Yeah, they're playing there too. So
Sunday, I think.
that's been sort of our bonding point with them, is getting what it means to be
And-
parents.
And the Birds of Chicago, have you had them before here? Do you know them?
I know them. I don't think they've played here. They may have played on somebody's show. Now, Tell us just a little bit about how having a child changes your life as a musician, your outlook on life, your spirituality, your politics. How does a child change that, or does it at all?
It changed me personally a lot. That's when we really started working with the one campaign and wanting to do something that was more in the lobby. I mean, if you'd asked me before having
Something that would leave a better world.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd asked me before I had a child, or would you be lobbying on Capitol Hill, in your 40s, I would laugh in your face, probably. But it's, I actually have a great passion for it at this point.
I think probably every parent knows this, that if you're the kind of person who cares about your life and cares about the world around you, having a child actually just becomes this even greater filter for what you can and cannot take on and where you want to give your energy. And so it's kind of like, I look back on my 20s and I'm like, I'm not exactly sure what I was doing with my quote unquote free time and that kind of thing. Because now our time has to be so focused. And so we really prioritize, he comes first, the music, the work we do with one, and, taking care of overall health. And that's pretty much it, and I'm super thankful to him. And also, we had been doing grunt work for about 10 years in terms of touring all over the place and doing that kind of thing. And by the time he arrived, we were fortunately in a position where we could be way more selective about where we played and when we played, and not having to do a million dates every year, and being able to do what we really cared about and be in the contexts we really wanted to be in. So he helped us even have even more of an excuse to do that.
Well, if you've just tuned in, we're listening to HuDost with Moksha and Jamal, and they are visiting here from their home in Kentucky lately. But
Yeah, we live an hour and 15 from Nashville.
they've been in Montreal, and now they're in Florida for the weekend. And after this song, we'll tell you where they're playing. But I think we might have time for two more songs.
Awesome.
This one's off the new record as well. We'll talk about the new record. It just came out last Friday.
Where did you come from, my red-haired son? From a distant place with a lovely face. Here's a whiskey toast to the Holy Ghost and the Spirit's girl who knows the most. Trying to find my place, trying to find my place I'm a tiger lost from the zoo of God. I'll find my place.
Well, that was exciting. A lot of stuff going on. Moksha's running across the studio, getting a different mic, and all sorts of things going on in the middle there.
That's
All right,
a
well, that's
brand new
from
track,
from the
too.
new album, and tell people. Let's talk a minute about this new album. We don't have a lot of time, but the album is Water and Mercy, and it just came out. Or is it out yet?
It just came out this last week, actually. So it's super new, and
And is it a new direction for you, new sound, or just something? Tell us about it.
it's very much, I mean, we've played a bunch of the songs from the new album today, actually, and it's very much in keeping with what we've done in the past. But I would actually say it's probably our most mainstream accessible album that we've ever done. I mean, I kicked my ass as a songwriter. He really worked as a producer. And then we had Dan Hasseltine from Jars of Clay as a co-producer on it. And it was awesome to have his perspective.
And can
Put
you
a lot
see
more
when
80s synthesizers in it
can you
too.
see when the new album's starting to take off? Like, is it getting Spotify plays and stuff like that? Do you see that kind of?
It's been
action?
added to a couple of the like official Spotify playlists and stuff like that. So it's definitely getting some traction in that department. Yeah. That's all still somewhat of a mysterious and fascinating arena for me. So
Well, we're going to have time for at least part of another song, but I need to let everybody know who has been listening this hour to HuDost that they will be playing tonight in St. Petersburg at Hip Expressions. That's on 54th Avenue North in St. Petersburg, and they're going to have belly dancers and special guests, including Christy Linnae. And then tomorrow, HuDost is playing at String Break. That's at Sertoma Youth Ranch. It's about 45 minutes north of downtown Tampa. It's an easy place. It's an easy festival to attend just for a day. If
it's
you
a
wanted
super
to just
fun festival.
if you just want to go up tomorrow, you could head up. HuDost is playing 11:50 and 4 p.m. They'll be back for Riverhawk. I also want to congratulate Bill Dudley for mixing this complicated
Awesome.
band with such great sound. And I want to let you know that Reverend Billy is here in person for the Rhythm Revival coming up right after the 3 o'clock news. And he has a very special guest host who's a specialist in 50s music and has a podcast on NPR and stuff like that. So that's going to be a real special show coming up right after the 3 o'clock news. Well, we're going to go out with a song from HuDost, our guest this afternoon on the Live Music Showcase. And if this song runs over into the news, you can switch over to Facebook and watch it because we'll be going into overtime.
Woohoo!
Here's HuDost.
Thanks for having us, Randy.
until